Okay, so this is a video tutorial on how to do the planning part of the project for the employee set project. The employee set project is a controlled assessment that takes place over about 5 days. There are several different tasks. If I go to my folder, I'm going to look at the autumn 2022 paper. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tasks. The first task is planning a project, task 1. And what I'm going to show you in this video is how you read the task, how you look at the scenario, and how you extract out that information and use a program called MS Project, which you'll need to do this, to plan this project, to create the Gantt chart, because you need to produce 3 things from this, a Gantt chart, a resource cost plan, and then I'll do a separate video for the rationale. But you need to produce these 2 things by using this piece of software. So the Gantt chart, and then the cost plan, or the cost overview. If we look at the mark scheme for this, so I will put a link to all these PDFs in the description below. If you have a look at the mark scheme for this, you can see that they expect the Gantt chart, they give some description of what the Gantt chart should look like, how you might lay out, how you might split the tasks up, what the logical order of it is. So this is a really useful thing to take a look at. You always want to look at the mark schemes for these projects, for these tests, because that gives you an idea of what they expect in a really good answer. It doesn't say anything in the mark scheme about the resource cost plan, but I will show you what that looks like. So, okay, so you're in the exam, you open it up, there's a whole load of blurb before it. The actual scenario starts here on page 4. This is also PDF, also going to be linked below. So we're going to read through this information. The scenario is Atlantic Air currently provides domestic flights within the UK and Ireland and is aiming to expand its services to more airports. The company wants to develop a system to manage the maintenance of its fleet of planes and support business operations. Just make that a bit bigger in case you can't see it in the video. They reviewed the current system and decided that they needed to develop a new centralized digital solution. The aims of the solution are to allow customers and company representatives to communicate more effectively, employees to manage the self-service records for the fleet of aircraft, management then needs access to tools for carrying out business and data analysis, help improve service around the client needs, the data analysis. Right, so there's several software projects that they need to get developed, and this is what you're going to plan out. Imagine you're a project manager and you use this tool. The requirements of the system are these things: a GUI interface, staff access up-to-date information on fleet maintenance, and allow staff to interact with the dashboard of business information. So that's an overview of what you've got to do. So you need to read these scenarios, get it in your head what you want. I would expect on each of these scenarios, it's going to lay it out in the same way. So on the next page, I then find out the business aims, what they want to do. They want to increase revenue from 3% the first year and 5% in the second year. So when you come on to doing your rationale, you'll have to look at the current annual revenue, and you'll have to show what it's going to be in the first year and in the second year, so how it's going to build up. And then below that, they have a list of what I would call materials. These are things that you need to account for the cost of. So to build this project, we're going to need to choose one of these server options, option 1, 2, or 3. To build this solution, we're going to need to purchase some hardware for 30,000. So they give you all the information here. So we'll worry about this bit later on. The next bit on the next page is a list of the resources. Resources are people who can work on a project. So for example, we've got LS Soto, and he's a senior software engineer, and it gives you a list of all his core skills. his previous experience, and how much he is per hour. So for reading this information, we're going to work out which task, like in a bit, he's going to be most suitable. And it goes on to describe all the other people. And then this is the place where I would start from, the list of tasks. And after the list of tasks, then has some information about faults. So imagine you're building a piece of software, you're more than likely to find some minor faults. And it says here, 4 minor faults with each module, and then some major faults. And it says there's going to be 4 found throughout the project. It then describes how long your staff will work. They will work 7 hours a day, 5 days a week, a normal working week. So we need to set that up on this project thing. Now, in the link below, I've got this guide to everything I'm saying. It's like something you can read through, where I describe all the basic features of this project that you need to know to pass this exam. So the Gantt chart view, which is the first thing we're going to switch on to, we go to task, Gantt chart, and we select Gantt chart. That's the first thing that will open up when you create a new blank project file, right? So we're on that view, and this is where we can enter in the list of these tasks, like in this screenshot here. So that's the first thing that I'm going to do. Now, you could copy everything in like this into there, and then work out the order, but I'm just going to read through it and copy the ones in that I want. So the first 2 things, I think, the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to put an overall task, Alana project. And how long is this whole project going to carry on? Well, it says at the bottom it needs to be completed within 14 weeks. So 14 weeks is 5 times 14, because there are 5 days in a working week. So that would be 70. So I'm going to write in here 70 days, like that. Now, you can write the duration in the days or weeks. It will default to whatever you set. That's the first thing we're going to do. We're going to go to File Options, and we're going to go to Schedule. And then here we've got some some settings. So it said a working day is 7 hours per day. So I'm going to change that from 8 to 7. And then if we go back into that, I didn't mean to close that. So 7 hours per working day. How do we want to default the duration? Well, I actually want the duration to be in hours, because this project gives us it in hours. So I'm going to default it to hours. That means whenever I enter in a duration here for any other tasks, it's going to be in hours, unless I say days, like that. So reading through this list of tasks, I can see the first 3 are independent tasks, I think, that would happen outside of these 4 modules that we need to develop to complete the project. But if we look in the materials on page 5 at the beginning, you can see that they give you 3 server options. You can either have a physical server, which you pay outright for, or 2 different types of cloud servers, one without support and one with support, and it'll cost you this much per month. Now, it's up to you as a project manager to decide which one you want. You may want to have a cloud server. What are the advantages of having a cloud server? This is something you would want to talk about in your rationale when we get onto that. Maybe a cloud server will automatically update, and so you don't have to keep buying new software. You just, with that 1,250 a month, you get the best service you can possibly have, but it's an ongoing cost. And I personally would prefer to have that, but that means maybe every 2 years we're going to need to upgrade the physical server. So you've got to work out what's going to be the most cost effective, really. Like if you times that per year, that's 12 times that. It's about the same price as buying a new server. So you can either have a cloud server that you pay about the same price for a physical server, or you can just buy one outright. I'm going to choose the physical server. So the first 3 tasks. It's going to be first 2 tasks are going to be these, and I'm just copying that from there and I'm pasting it into this task name list here. If I choose if I select the whole column and I use these buttons here and I click the one that goes to the right, it will indent all these tasks under this main task. So you can also group things in this program under certain tasks. And why this is useful is because, let me change that to 70 days. Why this is useful because you can then see an overall, like if you look here on the right-hand panel, you can see an overall task length. So it's going from 13th of January. So it actually, let's say it's the 13th of Jan. Actually, today's the 15th. I'll keep it the 15th of Jan. It will go on till the 10th of April. And you can see here that it finishes here, 10th of April, Thursday. It will automatically skip out those weekend days because they're not part of the working week. That is done automatically for you by the software. And that gives you an overall task, so you can see that you've made sure all these tasks fit into them. So, okay, so we're going to choose the physical server. The upgrade, it's going to take 40 hours for that, so I'm going to write 40 hours in there, 40 in there, because we've set up it to be default duration of hours. If you write the number and press return, it will write 40 hours. So write 40 hours in there, 40 hours in there. Then we're going to need to do these modules. So the first module is the backend database. So I'm going to copy that in here, like that. Now, if you look at these tasks below, you can see that deploy modules is 7 hours per module. So for each one of these modules, each one of these software tasks, we have to do these tasks per module, right? So and you need to work out in what order you want to do the module. So it's a little bit of a common sense, logical thing. But you would assume that you cannot deploy modules until you've developed it and you've tested it. So I'm going to put deploy after that one, right? And then we go down. Here's another one per module, unit testing. Well, unit testing should happen before you even develop it. Unit testing is where a software developer writes a load of code tests. You can do a quick Google for a unit test example. Let's have a look at that. Here's a Python unit test example. We want to test that this function, well, here's a description of it. Whatever you input into a function will give you what is the actual output of that function versus what you expected. For example, if you had a function that added two numbers together, you would expect that when you give it 1 and 1, it will return 2. If it isn't, that function isn't working and the unit test will fail. These are tests you write before you've written the code. So we put that before. And that's going to be a 7-hour task. Developing the module database is 100 hours. And then deploying the modules was 7 hours. And then integration testing is something that will happen after you've developed it. Integration testing is where you see how different components of a system work together. So, for example, how a database will work with the maintenance management system. Does the database work with this application front-end layer that's going to access that? You test it all together. Unit testing. So integration testing, that takes 16 hours. And then hardware testing we'll come on to later. Fixing and regression testing for minor faults. So it's 5 hours per fault. Now, if you look at the description here, it says 4 minor faults will be found with each module. That means each of those modules will take 4 times 5, so 20 hours. And you would expect that testing, so I'm going to right click on here to insert this testing task in there. So after we've done integration testing, then we're going to fix the things. So it's going to take 4 times 5, 20 hours for each module for minor faults. 4 minor faults are found. So that's why that task takes 20 hours. And then the test plan. Well, test plans will happen before you start doing the module. So, and that's going to take another step down. So you see here, I've just planned out module 1. If I want, I could, to make it easier or clearer to me, I could group that module 1 into a separate group like that. And then I could actually indent that inside of that overall project. So these buttons here are really useful. They're in the task menu. So you see I can group everything into that, and then I can see how long that module might take. And actually the length of that module is all of those hours added up. So that would be 100 plus 16 plus 20 plus 7. So that would be 14, 20, 30, 50, 157. That's how long that little module there will take. So you can have like, you can include that within the overall project, right? Right, so that's for module 1. For module 2, we can do pretty much the same thing. I can make my life really easy, and I can just copy this, all of that. And I'm going to just change the name of it to develop module 2 maintenance management, like that. And I'm going to change the name of that one. It's going to be all the same sort of layout for each task. And then I'm going to indent that back here. So everything is now on the same level. Creating a test plan, unit testing, how long does that take? That takes 95 hours. So 95 hours like that. So instead of that taking 157, I'm going to take 5 off it because this one took 100. So then we get 152, right? And then I'm going to copy that one, and I'm going to do the same for module 3. So it's just saving me time, so I don't have to keep repeating doing the same thing. And I'm going to move that back, indent it on the same level there. How long does that module take? 50 hours. So 107. There must be a way for it to add up all of these hours and put the correct total in there without me having to do that, but I'm not sure exactly how to do that. But I'm pretty sure if you add all those up, you will get 107 hours because I've just taken 50 off that initial one. And then I'm going to say for module 4, and I'm going to come here and I'm going to copy this title over. And I'm going to move that back like that. And that's 105 hours for that task. So it would actually be 5 hours more than that one, so 162 in total. And yeah, and so that is one way you can, this is how you enter the different modules, and then the first thing you need to do is work out the order of which these tasks start and finish. Obviously, testing, creating test plans, unit testing will happen before, then developing it, then you get onto the actual testing, integration testing, fixing bugs. Then the last thing would be about deploying that module. And you need to read carefully this scenario, work out which ones are per module, and then put it in here in the right way. And that's what you're going to get marks on for this. If you look at the mark scheme, which I mentioned before, it will say things like, look, show logical task sequences. So the server is set up and stored before modules, or unit testing before integration testing. You need to do that in the right order. But how you do it and who you set to do the task is up to you as a project manager. So we've sorted out everything for all those modules. Which tasks have we not put in there? Installation of hardware at 2 UK airports. So where should we do that? I think we should do that before we start doing those modules. And I'm going to do that here. And then how long is that going to take? It's 30 per airport. So I'm going to copy that task twice. Like that. And then it's 30 hours per airport. And then we've got testing of hardware. So this is where you have to use your intuition a bit. What do they mean? Which hardware? I think that they mean probably testing the hardware for the airport. So I'm going to insert another task there, and I'm going to call that testing of hardware. And the testing is obviously going to take place after we've done the installations. And that is 56 in total, 56 hours in total. And then we've got fixing the regression testing for a major fault. Now, as it says here, a maximum of 4 major faults will be throughout the whole project. Let's put major faults at the end. We're going to make sure that that's on the same level as everything else up here, not inside of that module. So major faults at the 12 hours per fault. It says it's going to find 4. So it needs to know your times table a bit. 4 times 12 is 12, 24, 36, 48 hours. You can use a calculator if you can't work this out. You will have access to that kind of thing, like calculator in the exam. You just go to here and then open up a calculator. You won't have access to the internet. What else? So we've done the test plan, staff training, user acceptance testing, and user training. Now, these are things I believe they don't happen per module, but they're going to happen once at the end. So staff training is 28 hours. User acceptance testing. What's that? It's 13 hours. User training is 15 hours. So I'm just going to double check this is recording. And yeah, it's recording. And I'm just transcribing. I don't want to be doing this and then realise that I'm not recording this and have to repeat it. Right, so that, from me reading all of this, is how we're going to do the planning out all the different tasks, right? And that is the first part of the scenario. You read through it, you look at the different tasks, and then you work out what order they've got to be in and put them into a nice logical thing here so you can understand where things are and then what we're going to do, the next thing is we're going to assign resources to each of these tasks. Okay, so to do that, we're going to need to go back up to here on page 6, and we're going to need to look through all the different people who've got to work on it. And we're going to have to change into a different view. So we're going to go to the resource sheet view. We get there by going task, Gantt chart, resource sheet. And then in here, I'm going to enter in all the different resources that I've got. I'm just going to simply copy the name of the resource, senior software engineer, over into there. Then you've got different types of resource, work, material, and cost. I'm just going to use work and cost. So the work one for senior software engineer, and he's £110 per hour. We can put his rate in there. This is a really great bit of this software. Once you've assigned these tasks to it and it knows how long that task is going to take, it will calculate the costs for you. So you don't have to do any of that. Now we've got a junior software engineer. Junior software engineers work, they're £45 an hour. A lead UI designer. A lead UI designer is £110 an hour. And then we've got a hardware and networking technician, £85 an hour. A database engineer, and he's £75 an hour. Yeah, and those are all the work resources, the people we've got to manage it. The next thing we need to do is enter in all the other costs. So, for example, when we're purchasing hardware, this is not a work thing, this is a material thing. It says it's going to be a one-time cost of 30,000. So we enter in that one-time cost here, like that. Then we've got training for staff. Is this a work? Is this a material? Is that a cost? It's not really a physical material. I think it's a cost. Let's see if I've not entered it in like this before. It's going to be 10,000 for that. You see, if I think we should put it in as a material, then it allows us to put that in as a cost. There may be a better way of doing different types of things, but we're just going to all of these things in as materials. Software development company base fee, that is 60,000, and that is a material. This is a one-time cost, 60,000. Now we've got server options. So I'm going to choose the physical server. That's a material. It's a one-time cost of 15,000. Remember, as I said, in your rationale, you may say, but we might need to change that physical server. So does that actually work out as cheaper by buying it once? Upgrades to company infrastructure. That is a material, and that is 12,000. Server upgrade. That is a material, and that is 3,000. And then we've got, they put the project lead in here, your pay, and it says it's £175 a day. So I was thinking about this when I did it, and I thought, how can I enter that in? I can't enter it as a material. It's more of work. If I'm getting paid £175 per day, and we do 175 divided by 7, that means I'm going to get 25 an hour. So I'm going to put the cost in as £25 per hour. Other things, ongoing costs, maintaining services and equipment, an annual cost of 10,000. So I'm going to put that in as material, a one-time cost per year of 10,000. And then an IT support technician, only be needed if we have the option 1 or 2. So if you choose these 2 options, that means that we're going to need to employ someone, and doesn't say whether that's per year. I would assume it is, but we're going to need to employ someone to be a support technician. So IT support technician. Now, is that, I'm going to put that down as a material thing because it doesn't say whether it's per year. Sometimes they can be a bit vague in these things and you need to just make it up. So that is all the materials now and the people that we've got to work on this project. That's all we've got. And now our next job is to go back to the Gantt chart view. So we go to task, Gantt chart, and we're now going to go through each of these tasks and we're going to enter in a resource by clicking in the resource and choosing someone appropriate to work on that task. And you will then see this Gantt chart over here slowly build up. So the first thing is an upgrade to head office infrastructure. That is, who can do that? So who can upgrade office infrastructure? I don't think senior or junior software engineers could do that. Nor the lead designer. Hardware networking technician is probably the most appropriate person for that. It doesn't specifically say, does it? So the database engineer can explain complicated processes, so for training, highly specialized in the design and development of databases. He's certified in multiple methods of testing and integration. Core skills of the hardware network solution is certified in developing test plans and hardware testing. degree in specialism in network infrastructure. So I think that we're going to have to assign the hardware networking technician to this task because I can't think of anyone else who would do it. Now, also to these tasks, we need to make sure that we assign all of the materials to the appropriate task. So upgrading head office infrastructure, I think would mean that we need to do this upgrades to company infrastructure as well. So we're going to assign a resource to do it and the materials for it. And by doing that, the program will automatically then be able to calculate how much this is going to cost. The next thing we need to do is we need to work out when he's going to start doing that. And I'm just going to say he's going to start doing that from the start of the project. So I copied the date from there, paste it in there. Because it's going to take 40 hours, the program will automatically calculate that that task will finish on the 21st of January. So 6 days later, 6 working days later. And it will skip out the weekends. And then you can see here, that task is now planned in. So the next thing, installation of 2 hardware UK airports. So who can do this? Again, I think because these software developers would not be able to do that. So I think, again, we're going to have to use a hardware and networking technician. So I'm going to choose him, again, or him or her. And is there anything else we need to apply to that? Install a physical server? Yes. We need to also have a physical server, right? So as well as the person who's going to work on it, we're going to attach that material to it as well. And you can see here in the Gantt chart view who would like to do it, but you can also see that in the drop down. Like that. Next task, installation of hardware at 2 UK airports. So again, I think we're going to have to put this guy on it again. And we're going to have to put this guy on it again here. And then the testing of the hardware, perhaps we can apply someone else to that. Maybe there's like a junior software engineer. I think might have to put him on that as well. So we'll put him there. So now, he's very busy at the beginning of this project. He's got a lot of different things he needs to do. So this is the next thing, the predecessor column. So as I said, I've linked this below. If you look at this resource here, all the functions of this project are screenshotted and put in here. So we've switched the resource list, entered those in, and now we've also put in the major and the minor faults. We've updated the hours per working week, per working day, and now we're entering in the tasks and their duration. So one thing we're going to have to use here is the predecessor column, this is point 6. The predecessor column is this one here. This is when you've got the same resource working on several different tasks like that. Now he can't work, for example, put the start date for that task at the same start date for that task. You get this red man over here, and this is a resource over-allocated. So he can't start the task at the same time he's doing that one. He's got to finish that before he starts that. So I'm going to use this predecessor column here, and I'm going to put the number, row number 2, because he needs to finish row number 2 before he can start that. I put 2 in there like that. And then I'm going to do the same for this one, because he's got to finish the one on row number 3 before he starts 3. I'm going to put 3 in there. And then I'm going to do the same for that one. He's got to finish the task on row number 4 before he starts the task on row number 5. And then I'm going to put in here the row number 5 before he starts row number 6. And what this brilliant piece of software does is it plans out the hardware networking technician's work to make sure that he's not over-allocated, because we've only got one of him, and he is able to then do this one, finish that work, do that, do that, do that, do that. So we're not going to have a problem of over-allocation. And we do that by using this predecessor column. And that means you haven't really got to work anything out. The program is brilliant and it will work it out for you. Okay, so the next thing is the backend database stuff. So who could do backend database work? Who can create test plans, first of all? Senior software engineer. So the UI can do training, hardware networking technician can do test plans, or we could use him again. We've kind of used him a lot. One of the things you don't want to do when you're planning out projects is overworking people. And you kind of have to eyeball that, or just make sure that's at first. And then if you see someone's working more hours than they should, then maybe put someone else on it. But it does say he's the one. I think he's going to have to do the test planning as well. So he's doing a lot of stuff. Something you could probably say in your rash out is that maybe you want to hire more of these guys because he might be overworked. I'm going to put him on every test plan. Because it seems, according to that scenario information, he's the only one who can do it. Now, he's not going to be able to do any of that until he's finished that last task, which is on row 6. So I'm going to use the predecessor column for that. He's not going to be able to start doing that one until he's finished that test plan on row 8. He's not going to finish this one until he's finished that test plan on row 16. He's not going to. These dates are not very helpful, are they? Because it's showing we're going over the end of it. But we'll fix that in a second. He's not going to be able to start doing this one until he's finished the one on row 24. Like that. I think we could, maybe it's not that helpful. I just wanted to group them together so it would give me a good overview. If we just get rid of that, and we'll still see whether it goes over the overall end of it, and you'll get a red warning there. Right, so we've got him do all the test plans. Okay, who could do unit testing for backend database? I'm going to assume that the database engineer can do unit testing, will then be able to develop it, fix the bugs, and deploy things. So I'm going to put that resource on a lot of all these different tasks here. Like this. Let's see who's good at testing, because usually you don't really want the engineer to do the testing at the end. They can do development, unit testing, everything. He's definitely going to fix the bugs, and he's going to deploy it. So that's his task, his module. But who's good at testing? So it says here he's certified in doing test plans. The database engineer is certified in multiple methods of testing and integration. Can the lead UI designer do any testing? No. The junior software engineer can do training and user interface design. The senior one can work as can do lots of. So it looks like I'm going to have to put this database engineer, okay, on the integration testing, because it says in here, he's the one who's really good at testing. It doesn't say that about anybody else. And for all integration testing, I'm going to use this database engineer. And we'll just see how that works out. Because it says in this scenario that he's the one who can do it. So for him, he's going to do all the tasks of that. Then when it comes on to maintenance management. So this maintenance management module is that the airline basically want you to create, you can actually see what this program is. It's actually in task 2, they give you some code here that is the program for the maintenance management. And in this program, they ask you for certain inputs, like what do you want to do, which job do you want to choose, and then this is the task that you've got to be developed. So the senior, either the senior or the junior software engineer is going to be able to do this. Now I'm going to put the senior one. He's not done anything yet. Oh yeah, also developing, going back to this module 1, which other things, which other materials that we haven't put in or yet can we put in now? I don't know if there's anything else at the moment, so that's okay. But the senior software engineer is going to do the unit testing. Senior software engineer is going to do the develop module. He's doing integration testing, fixing and regression testing. I'm also going to give to the developer on it. It's their job to fix it. Like, having experience of working in the field, I kind of understand whose roles might be more suitable for what. So you're just going to take it from me that I would say, as long as you can rationalize this in your rationale as well, it's fine to do whatever you think is sensible, but the person who's creating it should fix the minor bugs and faults. Then deploying the module, I'm also going to give that to the senior software engineer. So let's put some dates in before we progress for the database engineer. So the database engineer, he's going to start doing this. Can we maybe, the test plan could be created, well, whenever he's got time. So I'm going to see if this will work. And we can change it later. I'm going to put start date project, which is the 15th of January. It's going to take 7 hours for him to do that. So then he's going to finish that task. Now he's going to develop it. So obviously the database engineer can't start working on the next task until he's finished this one. So in the predecessor column, we're going to put row 9, like that. The integration testing, the database engineer cannot start that until he's finished the one on row 10. But this is where it's not going to make sense, because we can't start the module development until the test plans are done. So I think 2 options here are either going to be, we're going to make the hardware networking technician create all the test plans for all the modules before he starts doing any of this. So only once he's done all the test plans can he then start doing these tasks up here, because I think it's important that he creates those test plans first so it doesn't delay the development of these modules. So I might change this now. It's really up to you, but let's say he's going to do all of that at the end, and then we're going to use that to indent it back. So creating the test plan is going to be the first thing he's going to do. And I'm going to get rid of that. And then he can start doing the next test plan when he's finished the first test plan, which will be on row 3. I hope you see what I'm doing here. Like I've decided that he isn't gonna, I'm just gonna delete those dates as well. So we're not getting any of these red over allocation clashes. Delete those predecessor columns then. So he can start working on that when he's finished that. And then once he's finished the one on row 11, then he can start doing that. Then he can start doing that test plan once he's finished the one on row 19. Then he can start doing these other tasks once he's created all these test plans. I think that's a much better order, but he can't start doing these tasks until he's finished the last test plan, which was on row 27. And then he can't start doing this one until he's finished task on row 34, and then 35, 36, 37. So there you go. And it's not gone over the end of it, but I've made sure that he's done the test plans before he starts doing all these tasks, which would have occupied him into February. So that's just a bit of like juggling around of the tasks. So we're going to create, so he's done all of that. Then the database engineer can start doing creating his unit tests once, let's say once these test plans are done. So predecessor column 3. Then he's going to start, the database engineer will develop it after the one on the row task on row 4 is finished. Then he'll start integrating it after the thing on row 5 is finished. Then he'll start doing that after the thing on row 6 is finished. And then he can deploy it after the thing on row 7 is finished. And we've still got these clashes. Why do we have a clash here? Yeah, that's wrong. So sometimes with this predecessor column, you have to delete what's in there and press return and then re-enter it. Right, now we've worked it out. So I see what I had to do there. I had to delete them and then re-enter them in, and then it will recalculate when those tasks can start. So that's the first task planned with the resources for database engineer using this predecessor column. Next one, module maintenance. So we're saying the senior software engineer is going to do that. He can start doing that once the test plan's been made. So we put predecessor column row 11 in the predecessor column, like that. Then we're going to put the row 12 in there, like that. Then the database engineer is going to do integration testing, but he can't start doing that until he's finished that task, which is on the 2nd of. So let's just see if it works. If I put that 13 in there like that, then we're going to get a clash. So I've got to say he can start doing that once. So delete that, I'm going to put 8 in there. So once he's finished that task, then he can start doing the integration testing. But the testing of those minor faults can't start until that is finished. So we put 14 into there, and then deploying the modules will happen once those bugs have been fixed, put 15 into there. So that is that second module plan now. And we're just going to check whether it's still within the project deadline. It is. Now we're going to do the third one. So the hardware and networking technician, he creates the plan, and then who are we going to put onto this? So let's have a look in our scenario. Which of our engineers could we get to do the user interface? Well, a cheaper resource and someone who's got skills, because it says, would be the junior software engineer. We could put the junior software engineer onto that task, but I think using our lead UI designer, as we haven't used him yet, would be great for this task because he is a lead UI designer and he's got previous bespoke experience. So that's something you could talk about in your rationale why you've done that when we come to that. So I'm going to get the lead UI designer to do all of this. He's going to create unit tests, he's going to develop it, he's going to fix things that are wrong with it, and then he's going to deploy it. Let's assume he can do all of those things. I think he can. It hasn't said he can't, so we'll assume he can. And he can start doing that task when the test plan is finished on row 19. Then he can start doing the development when the unit test is on row 20. Then he can start doing the integration testing when task 21 is finished. Then he can start doing the, hang on a second. The database engineer can do the integration testing when he's finished that integration testing, which is on row 14. And then the lead UI designer can do the testing for minor faults after integration testing is finished on 22. And then he can deploy it on after he's finished the regression testing like that. So we've got that task now planned. Now we have one more module to do. Who are we going to put onto this data analysis module? Which people have we not used yet? Or we've not used the junior software engineer. Is it advisable to put him on this task on his own? I'm not sure. Sometimes you can double up. You can put two people on task. Maybe we want to put a junior with a senior, but let's keep this simple. Let's not overcomplicate it. So let's put the junior software engineer on here because we've not used him yet. He's going to develop it. He's going to do regression testing. He's going to deploy it. So he can start doing unit testing once the test plan's finished, which is on row 27. So put that in there. He can start developing it once the unit testing is done. The database engineer can do the integration testing once he's finished that integration testing on row 22. The junior software engineer can then fix the bugs after the integration testing is finished. Then the junior software engineer can deploy it after the bugs have been fixed. So we put row 31 in there, and now we plan that out. And are we still within the end of the project? Yes, we are. We've got no conflicts, the right number of hours. We've planned out all these things with the hardware networking technician. And it was a good thing that I changed what I was doing halfway through. I realized I wanted to get him to create the test plans before we did any of these longer tasks, so it wouldn't delay any of those other ones. Because perhaps if I hadn't done it that way, these tasks, these modules would have been delayed until he was free. So that's just the way I've decided to do it. So the last things, fixing and regression testing for major faults. So who can do that? Who we want to put onto the major fault fixing and regression testing? Again, it says here, it still says here, well, our hardware networking person, I think we've overworked a lot. It says that he's the only person, it's specifically who can do hardware testing and developing test plans. Let's assume these major faults can be fixed by a senior software engineer. I think they can. And I think putting a senior onto it would be a better idea, because we know that these complicated major faults can get fixed well. So when can he start fixing the major faults? There's only going to be 4 found. And let's assume that the major faults are going to be found after all the modules have been developed, So after the last module has been deployed on row 32. Let's see what happens if we do that. Does that make us go over the end of allocated time? I don't think it does. No, we're still within that boundary. Who can do the staff training? Who in our list of resources says is good at staff training? I think the lead UI designer is fully trained in user experience, worked as a previous experience developing bespoke training on complex systems. The junior software engineer has worked in staff training. So I'm going to put the junior onto that. And we can't do staff training until all the bugs and everything have been fixed. So this is the last task after all the testing and everything. So he can start doing the staff training when everything else is finished. So after the last task on row 39 is done, who can do user acceptance testing? So the user acceptance testing, previous delivery and bespoke training, previous experience of delivering bespoke training on complex systems. So I think maybe this lead UI designer might be good on this user training task. But who can do the user or acceptance testing? User or acceptance testing. I think putting a lead UI designer on user acceptance testing would be a smart thing to do. He understands how there's something called black box testing. Black box testing is where you have no previous knowledge of how the system works. So is he the best person to put onto this? Because, well, it doesn't give us any other options, but I would assume that a lead UI designer would be a good tester. It does say here, he can do fully trained in user experience and user interface science. So he would be a good person, I think, to test whether the system is really good, a lead UI designer. And user training, as I said, I'm going to put the user training. I think we should put him on the acceptance testing and that. Let's see if that works. So the last task the lead UI designer did, well, we've got to do it after staff training. Oh, actually, I'm going to move that around. So if you go over to this row column and you get the cursor to turn into a crosshair, I'm going to move that user acceptance testing. It would make more sense for that to happen here. I think before we do the major fault fixing. Yeah, that would make sense. So we're going to do testing of the hardware, user acceptance testing. User acceptance testing is where you give people the product and they see whether it works as it should. So that's going to happen after the hardware testing is done. So after row 38 is finished, then the senior software engineer can get on with fixing any major faults. That will be after the user acceptance testing in row 39. And then the staff training can happen after all the faults and everything have been fixed in row 40. and then the user training is going to be on the lead designer will do it after the staff training, so after break 41. And that is everything planned out. And we still have got time, I believe. How much time have we got left on that project? We seem to fit everything within, well within the end of the project. I finished by the middle of March. Now, you could say in your rationale that that means that we've got like contingency time built in, that if there were unforeseen things that delayed it, then that's something you could say. Okay, so the only other thing we haven't done yet is to figure out all the other materials, where do they go? So the user interface, which ones have I not ticked in? So I've not added in so up here, I've added in upgrades to physical, the upgrades of the hardware installation and configure of physical server, put the physical server in there, the hardware. So we're going to need to purchase that hardware, right? Aren't we? So we're going to add that into one of those tasks, so we've accounted for it there. And then use it. The other things that were left over, if I can remember from looking at this, are staff training, which will add into the staff training task, of course. And then maybe in this maintenance management module, or perhaps we can just add it as an overall task, overall material for the whole project. The last thing is, oh no, hang on, with the servers. So with the install and configure servers, we're also going to add into here maintenance of annual maintenance of the servers. So let me just I think I've ticked in and also we're going to add in IT support technician as well. Remember, because we're buying physical servers, we need a support technician and we need to maintain them. What else? Project lead, we haven't done that yet, but we've got purchasing the hardware, we've got server upgrades. Oh, maybe we need to add in server upgrades to that as well. Or we'll add server upgrades, I think, into that upgrade task, right? And then software development company base fee. So maybe we'll add that software development company base fee onto overall for that. We've added in staff training, we've added in the upgrades here. The only thing that we're missing out is the time for the project lead. So I said per day. Let's assume that the project lead is going to work on this every day. So I could add the project lead in as somewhat as a material for the whole project, like that. And that should add in my time on every single day of the project at £25 an hour or £175 a day. So that is everything here. And now you can see here, we have now built up this Gantt chart. There are some controls for this Gantt chart. So we're going to need to export this in a minute. Once we've just checked the cost and things. Down here are some zoom tools where you can zoom out. So you can see, if you can't see it all because it's too big, you can zoom out or you can zoom in. And so I wanted to be zoomed in, so it's very clear. And we can see here that we've planned out all the modules. I decided to, it's a quick recap, I decided to create all the test plans before the hardware network technician does anything else, so we can get straight on with developing the modules. I've figured out the order of each of these tasks that need to happen in each module. they need to create a test plan, they need to do unit testing, then they develop it, the integration testing, then fixing and regression testing for minor faults, and then deploying the modules. And that's the same for each one of these modules. Oh, I've not updated the name there, so I'll do that quickly. Just noticed a mistake. So that's maintenance, that's user interface, that's data analysis, sort out the order. We then assigned different engineers according to this task brief, who can do what. We've assigned them to different tasks. And then we've used this predecessor column here so that we can say when they can start the task, because sometimes they're working on something before and they can't work on two things at once. So, for example, this database engineer can only start working on this task after he's finished the task on row 4, so I write 4 in the predecessor column here, and then the software will automatically allocate that. I've also added in all the materials which we were given, which were these things here, which I added in by going to task, Gantt chart, and resource sheet, and I added everything in here. Some things work and some things are materials. And then also, me as a project lead, I put myself in every single day on the project, and I'm 175 a day. So now, what's left to do is to look at the costs and the resources. So to do this, I go up to report and I go to costs, and I go to task cost overview. And this will show me all the costs. Now it shows me the overall cost of the project. So it says here the overall cost of the project is 250,000. So if I click on that table there, and then I look in this menu down the side, and I go to level 2, it will then show me the breakdown of all the different tasks. If I also want to see that, so you can like move this around and make this look however you want. I also maybe want to see that on a chart. Gives us a nice breakdown. You can see a graph breakdown of how much each task costs, and by far installing and configuring the physical server is the most expensive one. So that is these are some of the things one of the things I think you have to produce for this: a Gantt chart, rationale, and a resource cost plan. So that shows me how much each task costs, and then you need to do a report for resources. So if I go to report resources, resource overview, and this shows me the number of hours that each of my resources is working. So I can see the breakdown of the hours. But I think for this task resource cost plan, you've got to just produce this report, which should show a breakdown of all the different tasks, which includes the cost of the materials in there as well. If I put that pie chart on there as well, that will show me breakdown in a pie chart. The cost of each individual task, and you can see that there. So the next thing you need to produce is a Gantt chart. So assuming this is what you need to produce, and I might need to just double check that, because they haven't made it very clear in there what they actually want to see. And if you look at the grading scheme for task 1, okay, look, here's a mark scheme. So maybe they said something here. What is it they want to see in this resource cost plan? Fully correct resources and accurate costs have been added to the plan, resulting in an accurate estimate. So they want to see correct resources and accurate costs. So I assume that's what they want to see a breakdown of. The task cost overview, how much each task costs. But can we see, what would be good is if we could see, yes, if I go over to this menu and I put resource name, it adds the resource names in as well to each task. This is a breakdown of how much each resource costs. So can I have a list of a breakdown of the cost of the tasks and a breakdown of the resources? So if I go to this, I click on here and I go to this resource view, and I'm going to copy this table, and then I'm going to switch back to this task view. Can I just paste that in? I think I can. Yeah. So here we are. Here we've got a breakdown of all the tasks, a breakdown of all the costs for each task, which includes the resources that are working on it, and then a graph here as well. So what I think that they want you to be able to export and produce for that part is for this resource cost plan is this, and it needs to be named like this, which you need to insert your own details in there. Once you've got that view like that, we're then going to go to File, Export, Create PDF, and I'm just going to put this in here, and I'm going to call it that. And I should export that whole thing as a nice PDF. And if I go to my downloads, and this is the kind of thing that you want. Now it goes over to multiple pages. You could probably sort out formatting so it looks a bit better and more readable, but that is basically what they want. The other thing they want is this Gantt chart. So if we go back to the Gantt chart view, it's all nicely laid out. I make sure I've got everything in view, so all the resources. Just so it's easy for them to be able to see the information. You spent ages doing this and you want them to be able to see all your great work. Can't make that any wider, can I? So we get it all nice of you like that. Make sure you're at the right zoom level here. Maybe you want to go in deeper, or maybe you want to go further out. But I think that's a good zoom level. Now what we need to do is we need to go to the print menu. So we go to File, Print, and we want to be able to get this all within, like, we can go over to multiple pages, but we want to be able to see all the tasks on one page. So I can change paper size to 11 by 17. And is that still not fitting everything in? I don't think it is. Perhaps if we delete that task there, because it's an empty row, and we delete that task there, and we delete that task there, so everything's a bit more bunched up. And then we go to the File, Print view, and 11 by 17. Now you see at the bottom here, there are buttons here. Now I don't have to go down anymore. I just have to go across, which is fine. We go across and you can see that our Gantt chart, it doesn't matter if it goes into multiple pages going to the right, but it's better, in my opinion, that you get all the tasks and everything onto one page like that, so it's easier for them to read. Once you've got the print preview set up how you want it, we're then going to export this as a PDF. It must be named like it says here. obviously insert your name and details and registration number, press OK, it exports it. Just double check it's exported it right. I think sometimes it takes a bit of time to do this because it's like there's quite a lot of things to export. It's got to generate this image. But give it a minute and it will export this as a PDF, and then that should appear here. And that's the other thing that you've got to export, the Gantt chart and this resource cost plan, in which you're showing the cost of all the resources and the cost of all the tasks. I think it doesn't say exactly what should be in there, and there isn't actually anything in the if you look in the mark scheme, it just says fully correct resource and accurate costs that have been added to the plan, resulting in an accurate estimate. And then the Gantt chart should show the project tasks are organised in a thorough, logical and efficient manner using the appropriate SDLC, Systems Development Lifecycle, model to provide thorough, accurate predictions of the project's timescale. Resources that have been consistently assigned to the project tasks effectively. And the last thing we need to do is rationale, but that's going to be a separate video. So has it exported everything? Just still thinking about it. Yeah, it has. So we've got this export of our Gantt chart with all our tasks and the Gantt chart showing them on the time. And then we've got, and those are the two things I think you need to submit. Finally, you should have done this a long time before. Make sure you save your project file regularly in a place where you can find it. So I'm going to save mine into my documents folder here, and I'm going to call it Alana example work through, right? Okay, so that make sure you do that. How about a situation where a student lost their work halfway through an exam and they had to start again, and you don't want to do that? Trust me. So that is how you plan out, that's how you enter the resources and everything. If you've got any comments about this video, any questions, put them in the comments below, and good luck in your task 1 exam.